Look, we all know more money will only equal more problems if you're not being strategic about how you earn it. Chasing a higher income won't solve your issue if you don't understand why the money you're already earning isn't enough. And to stop working harder and longer to just end up with the same problem doesn't really seem like a good idea, and I'm here to help you rethink the way you're doing things. As we know, guys, high-income earners like business owners, doctors, lawyers have been conditioned to believe that more money is what brings them more freedom. But here's the truth. Over 35% of professionals earning $200,000 a year or more are still living paycheck to paycheck in America. And that's crazy. If earning $200,000 a year isn't enough to live financially comfortable, then what is? And if that's not going to do it, what number does, and how do you get there? This isn't happening because you're not earning enough. It's because one of the single biggest problems you have that you don't even realize that's draining off your hard-earned money, it's the IRS. They're taking 37% above $250,000. That's crazy. Think about it like this. When you're caught in the middle of the storm, it's almost impossible to see your way out. The only answer that seems obvious is to keep moving, hoping the storm will eventually pass. But what if you could zoom out and see the bigger picture? Suddenly it becomes much more obvious which direction will lead you out of the storm the fastest. Your financial problems are no different. When you're in the thick of it, the only solution that seems obvious is to make more money. That's going to include you changing more time, more effort. You're going to have to cash in. That's the direction you want to run, and that's what feels like moving forward. But is it really? If you zoom out and you get a fresh perspective, doesn't that let you know where you're at? I mean, what you really need is to zoom out and get that fresh perspective on your finances, on your life, where you're spending your time, because there are far more efficient ways to solve your problem. And the last thing you want to do is be running harder in the wrong direction. The number one thing draining your hard-earned income from your bank account of all high-income earners today is taxes. The first false belief I hear from doctors and lawyers all the time is that high tax bills are just part of life and that they are unavoidable. And that's simply not true. If you're not actively managing your tax strategies, you're creating another unnecessary financial burden that's keeping you from true financial freedom. And understanding this is a key to keeping more of your income and escaping the endless, brutal storm of financial distress. Think about this. You made $500,000 this year. At a 37% tax bracket, you've likely sent off $150,000. That's just to the Fed. If you live in California, you could peel off another 13% for state taxes. You're over half your income going out the door to taxes. Tell me that. You're coming home with less than 300 grand after netting 500 when you're done with your tax bill. That's crazy. But most people don't take the time to realize that cutting that tax bill in half even further will allow them to live a much more comfortable life and invest in the things of the future with just a few minor changes. Now that you really see that taxes are silently draining your hard-earned money, you might be wondering, what can I do about it to fix it? And here's the thing. Most people just hand everything over to their accountant after the first of the year, cross their fingers, and hope for the best. But here's the truth. If you want to reduce your tax liability and actually keep more of your hard-earned money, you've got to be strategic. This isn't a quick fix or a lucky loophole your accountant digs up. It's a framework that helps you make calculated moves and puts you in control of how much you owe. And once you understand this, you're not just reacting to a tax bill, you're making decisions that protect your wealth and accelerate your financial freedom. But almost nobody does this. I'm going to tell you a story. It's where I earned more money and made more problems for myself, because it's going to be the perfect example to show you how I could have implemented the Intelligent Investor Framework at the very beginning and how I cost myself a lot of money. Imagine this. I'm 21 years old and I'm working on a job for my dad, and we're building a warehouse. And I've got the crane operator there, and he's standing all the panels and he's doing all the work, and man, he's just mad. He said, man, if I didn't have to commute these cranes in, I could save so much time. If I could just find a space here that I could park these cranes, I'd be really happy. Maybe even it have an old house on it I could do something with. I had gotten to know the little old lady next door, and she had a mentally disabled son, and she was actually coming to the end of her life, and she realized that she had to transition him out of this industrial area that had grown up around her and get them both into a place that he could live after she was gone. As I befriended her, I realized that she wanted to sell her house. So I took my only $500, not my last, because that would mean I had more. This was my only $500. I put it as an earnest money on her property and got it under contract. I then immediately went to the crane operator and I said, how'd you like to buy the place next door? It's 3.5 acres. It's got the house on it you can convert to an office. And here's the process I need to go through with the city to get it rezoned. He said, man, that's fantastic. So I put it under contract with him. I was going to make a huge amount of money. Went through the process, got it done, closed the deal. Bam, I had a huge paycheck. In fact, it was a bigger paycheck than I was making working for my father. I was happy. I did some things. I spent the money. About 9 months later, my accountant filed my taxes, and because of how I'd bought the property, how I'd sold the property, the things I had done, I took all of that income as ordinary income. I was sick. I owed a ton of taxes, and I didn't have it. I'd spent the money. It was at that point in my life at 21 years old that I realized that I needed to figure this out, because had I known, if I had kept the property for 366 days, the income would have been taxed totally different. If I had leased it to the crane operator for a period of time, it would have been different. If I had sold him the property at one price and charged him the improvements at another price, I could have done so many different things that would have changed the outcome of how it came about. But I just didn't know. And that really was the beginning of my journey on how I decided that it was more important to understand what the tax ramifications were than it was to make a big, huge paycheck. And that's what I mean when I say more money equals more problems, because if you're not using the right tax strategies, you won't be making noticeable changes and differences in your lifestyle. And I realized that without that, I was just going to be paying the IRS way more than I wanted to. After you've figured out what your tax exposure is, you're going to need to create a strategy. And this just isn't about cost cutting. It's about making moves that minimize your taxes. So if you look at how you can put this strategy together and implement it properly, you're going to see another 10, 15, 20% of your income that's going to stay with you. That's a 10%, 15% pay raise without doing any more work. In fact, it may allow you to hire more people to work even less and be more productive. But this is about putting your plan into action next. And for me, that meant delaying the sale, setting up a lease, really just studying how to avoid the tax hit. So once you've got that, you've implemented your strategy that you figured out based on how you needed to come up with tax savings, you're now sitting right where I was. And this is why I created the Intelligent Investor Framework. If you've got a framework to reduce your tax burden, you can take back control of your finances. And isn't that what we're all trying to do? Is be in control of money, not let money control us? But here's the thing, savings on taxes is just the beginning. What if I told you that the money you saved could do even more than just sit in your bank account? It could create other financial streams of income that are also tax advantaged, and this one step that takes you from simply saving money to multiplying it while you're still not working more. This is the step that separates those who play the game from those who play to win the game. This is what it's all about. Winning the game. And I'm calling it winning the tax game. You're not just lowering your tax bill, you're using that saved money to build even more wealth. This is how intelligent investors play the game and become the top 1%. So if you take the money you saved on taxes and you put it to work, into investments, into assets, into new opportunities, you're now creating additional streams of income. So let's just say you saved 20 grand on your taxes. If you just let that sit in your bank account, it's not doing anything more than about 5% for you. But if you invested that into real estate, stocks, even a partnership in a new business, that money starts to multiply. And this isn't just about savings, it's about turning that saved money into something bigger that is not creating a tax problem. So if you want an in-depth guide on the Intelligent Investor Framework and you want to see it in action with real-life examples, check out the detailed video below and you'll see how the Intelligent Investor Framework can work for you.